Blessings, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the channel today. I'm Dane, host of the Rock and Metal Guardian. Hope that you're doing well wherever you may find yourselves. As you can see, I'm in front of the old microphone. I've been having some technical difficulties. So originally, I was hoping to do a week-long series celebrating Rush's 50th anniversary because this month, 50 years ago, is when this debut came out. I'm still doing a celebration, but instead of 6, 7, or 8 episodes in a row, they will have to be every other day, starting today instead of yesterday, as I had hoped, again, due to technical difficulties. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? So it's a little different than I had planned, still doing it nonetheless. I have to do it. It's my favorite band of all time, and I wanted to share my ideas with you and see what comments and ideas you have about this wonderful band. So today's episode is What Makes Rush Great. Let's go ahead and dive right in. The first thing is the individual musicianship from each one. So we'll look at them one at a time, and then we'll go from there. So we talk about Geddy Lee. He is a nonpareil, if I'm pronouncing that right. He has no match. He has no rival. Of course, this is just my humble opinion. I think he supplanted or dethroned Chris Squire at some point. No disrespect to Chris Squire. Geddy's here for me, and then Chris is like right here. So there's something exquisite about his bass playing, the technicality, the craft, the soul, the spirit. I'm going to say more about that when we talk about the band as a whole. But there's just something magical about when he is behind his 4-string, whatever model he's playing. And I think he occasionally brings out a red 5-string guitar. Anyway, and his ability to play synths and keys and add a touch with his feet, trigger some sounds, and that's just... And his voice is not everyone's, but for me, I fell in love with it the first time I heard his voice. And the first album I heard by him was this. I'm in 7th grade, and I was hooked ever since. I got everything spread out over here on my CDs and whatnot. And if we talk about Alex, he's my favorite guitarist. He, to me, is also unparalleled, unmatched. And if we talk about Neil, also, same thing. Again, I know some people don't feel the same way. Hey, it's just an opinion. There is something so special about these guys when they hone their craft. And that's the key word, or one of the key words. So from an individual standpoint alone, they're magic. When you bring them into the room together, it's that 1,000-fold. So if we talk about them as a group, same thing as individuals. Their craft, their technique, their virtuosity, their heart, their soul, their spirit is poured into their music, and you can hear it. There's that emotion, there's that energy that is unrivaled, I think. And they had that dedication. So that's the band members as individuals, that's the band as a whole. Now, tied to that as well, what we have here, let me move my phone here. Again, I'm so spread out. I have lots to say. I'm so excited too. I hope you are. We're looking forward to this. So when we talk about the interrelationship among or between the band members of Rush, again, Geddy Lee, Alex Lifeson, and Neil Peart, that interrelationship among them or between them as individuals, we call that chemistry. It's just amazing. There's something, it's like a gift from God, that inspiration that they all have as individuals come together, and that inspiration that they give to one another that bleeds into the other two, right, from them. And it's I'm bleeding into you, you're bleeding into me, they're bleeding into that person, and you have this like weird triangle, whatever you want to call it, going on, this 3-way dynamic, just fabulous. So again, the interrelationship among the band members, that chemistry, which is common, but here it's cubed, or to the 10th degree, who knows. And then the next thing is rare. The whole is greater than the sum of their individual parts. Like no other band. Their collective effort, in coordination. So it's a collective effort in coordination with the players' interdependence in achieving, creating said collective goal or desire. Let me repeat that. The whole is greater than the sum of their individual parts. Their collective effort in coordination with players, these 3 guys, interdependence in achieving, creating said collective goal or desire or effect. That's the synergy that I talk about so much on this channel. Their chemistry and then their synergy. Chemistry is common, synergy is rare. They have it in spades. That's what makes them great. One of the things that makes them great. All right. Now, nonconformity. Theme of this is not a concept album. From a thematic standpoint, you have a lot of stuff on here that deals with the theme of conformity. Heck, the album ends with Vital Signs, where Geddy says over and over again, some repetition, then some incremental repetition, where he says in some fashion, everyone's got to deviate from the norm. Tom Sawyer's about that. Red Barchetta to some degree. Just Neil Peart himself not wanting to be friends with his fans. That kind of, I can't pretend a stranger is a long-awaited friend. Nonconformity, right? To some degree. So Witch Hunt, dealing with that as well. Don't be part of the crowd, that sort of thing, because that can be toxic and bad, and hatred comes from that. So many things, bad things come from that. So nonconformity. And of course, if we talk about nonconformity, had they caved to record producer or the label's pressure after this, right? They were pressured. They said, nope, we had the Down the Tubes tour. We're going to go try one more attempt at, grandeur, and they accomplished it. This is the beginning of that, right? So, again, nonconformity. Experimentation. This is a gamble to have you have a song that's almost 12 and a half minutes, and then side 2 is almost just 2 seconds shy of 20 minutes. You have 5 songs on an LP and then a CD, of course. So, and then their whole catalog is right. Well, this is very experimental. The one before that, very experimental as well. And there are others that follow. Lyrics, and we have Neil to thank for that. There are times when Geddy writes lyrics like Tears, Alex, Lessons. There are, I think, a couple other here and there. Mostly, the staple was you pulled out the liner notes, right? Music by Leon Lifeson, music by Peart. Anyway, so lyrics are fabulous. They're cerebral. Take this, for example, very cerebral. This is also about nonconformity, the message and the story, the title track, right? Cerebral, intelligent, right? You don't have the typical, hey, let's party, hey, let's get with the ladies, hey, let's have a smoke, all that, right? You have what seems to be at times, but it's really about something else. So if you talk about songs that seem to hint about love and sex and partying, it's actually more transcendent than that. If you take Panacea, for example, on Caress of Steel, it's not the typical rock song. There's so many of them, right? Where, hey babe, I'm leaving you in the morning. I gotta move on. Ramble On, Led Zeppelin, Leonard Skinner, Freebird. There's just a ton of those, right? And they're great songs, but it's more transcendent than that. And then Bacchus Plateau, that part of the Fountain of Lamnath, where it seems like it's going to be a drinking song, and it is to some degree, but it's transcending that as well. So. And then if we get to the closest Rush has ever got to doing love songs would be Entre Nous, Different Strings, Tears, probably the closest maybe, and Ghost of a Chance. Anyway, so that's so tied to the nonconformity is these types of songs, not your traditional love, party, sex songs. It's not your typical rock. So tied to experimentation, tied to nonconformity is that with respect to the lyrics in Neil's genius as a writer, and the band willing to gamble with that and agreeing with that, because let's face it, married men, they weren't letting Gene Simmons push them around to go off and cheat on their wives like Gene wanted them to. And you know the research, the data on that, right? He says, I was trying to get them laid. Well, they didn't want to get laid. They had wives that they were devoted. They have wives that they are devoted to. So anyway. So let's talk about the songs, the palette that this band works with, just a broad swath that they used. So if we talk about their ability to do hard rock, So you have songs like Anthem, Working Man, that Cream Zeppelin-esque track that we love so much to this day. If you're a hardcore Rush fan, yeah, this isn't a perfect album, but there's just so much on here to like regardless, and what a way to end the album with the last track, Working Man, right? Excuse me. Something for Nothing, hard rock, Headlong Flight on this baby, right? The gem of the album, if you ask me. Their ability to do light and shade, right? In the end, it starts off slow, it picks up, right, with the heavy guitar. Closer to the Heart has some light and shade to it. Peaceable Kingdom on Vapor Trails. And that's just the tip of the iceberg with the light and shade. Their instrumental virtuosity, the two that we love the most, well, the two that I love the most, YYZ and La Via Strangiato. Most people you talk to say those are their two best instrumentals. There are others, of course, that I'm quite fond of, but their ability, and if we're not talking about instrumentals, there are sections of songs because you have that classical ethos that Rush has, and or jazz. We'll get to that as well, where you have long stretches without lyrics, and so you have moments of instrumentality, and so it's like an instrumental in so many ways because it's like a movement, right, within a song that has lyrics here and there. So that's what I mean as well. That's part of what makes Rush great. So if you take a song like 2112, you have solos here and flourishes of great heavy licks and bass greatness and drum fills and just wonderful textures without, constant lyrics. There are a lot of lyrics, but there's also these moments where you're just taking it all in without vocals, right? It's just great. All right. They jazz things up, right? Once Rutsy's out, Peart comes in. Okay, hey guys, let's jazz things up. And they do by Torn the Snow Dog and some other moments on here. Great album, if you ask me, underrated. So where else do they jazz things up? La Via Strangiato, full of jazz, right? And Show Don't Tell on the Bunny album cover, Presto, right? Yes, I got everything here, as I said, came well prepared for today's video. They also do pastoral, right? You have wonderful pastoral moments on Farewell to Kings, the song, and the very opening of Xanadu. And there are other moments as well. There's some pastoral on here and the two epics. There's pastoral with Rivendell. Okay. That's, the Jethro Tull kind of thing, right? Madrigal, that's very medieval. So the medieval / pastoral stuff that you get, the classical elements that are also on here. The studio version of La Via, right? And let's see, what did I miss? Hope, for example, on Snakes and Arrows. I wish this would have been the album cover anyway. So, all right. And, yeah, that's what I was going to say. All right. Now, with respect to shorter pieces, when they go into more commercial, not full-blown commercial, but when they get into this period, this is a two and done for the most part. They're meeting the best of both worlds. Beginning with this one, you get a little bit more shorter songs, but still holding on to the prog with Jacob's Ladder and Natural Science, and then here, you have prog throughout, but it's got a commercial feel to it. In some ways, you got the beauty, you got the progginess in the camera eye, and to some extent, Vital Signs and Red Barchetta. It's all Tom Sawyer. The whole album is very proggy, but in a more modern sense, if you will. So make of that what you will. So Rush's Chameleons, they are, think of, if David Bowie and Todd Rundgren are the singer-songwriter chameleons, so many different phases, right? Rush as a band that way too. That's also in many ways what makes them a great band. And so if we talk about those shorter pieces that are still proggy in places, we talk about The Spirit of Radio, Entre Nous, Different Strings, Tears, Free Will especially, right? That guitar solo is just amazingly exquisite and yet computer mechanical sounding at the same time, that technology bit, right, that they're venturing into. Limelight as well. So having hit-like songs or hit songs or radio-friendly songs and yet still not losing, as Geddy sings, your integrity. Okay. Epics. Got to talk about epics. What makes Rush great? Some of the best epics in all the musical world. By Torn the Snow Dog, Necromancer, Fountain of Lamneth, Xanadu, Cygnus X1, 2112, anybody? Hemispheres, anybody? Okay. And tied to that, songs that just seem to be epic, like Farewell to Kings. Not terribly long, but it feels longer than it actually is. Same thing with The Short Beneath, Between, and Behind. A very brief history of entropy when it comes to political and social systems, right? Civilization in general. Even Red Barchetta, 5 minutes and change, 6 minutes and change, still seems longer because of the story. It's just amazing. Now, what else makes Rush great? Well, if we go into this book briefly, I did a video on this. One of my first videos of all time, how Rush created progressive rock, hard rock's greatest record, Moving Pictures by Will Romano. And just very briefly, Will Romano's thesis is as follows: that the band, Rush that is, in using synesthesia, and synesthesia is when you substitute one of the five senses to heighten or talk about another one, or substitute one. So think of it this way. The most famous example of synesthesia, you may not even realize it, is when you say the following. You see what I'm saying? You're supposed to say you hear what I'm saying, but you're using vision to replace the ear, right, the auditory. So that's an example of synesthesia. I had a friend in college who associated the letters of the alphabet with colors. That's an example of synesthesia. This is a condition as well. I'm not a synesthete, but when I write poetry, I do incorporate it, and I do like poetry that has it. So what is the whole point in mentioning the literary device or condition known as synesthesia? And what Will says is that Jimmy Page believed in this. He says that the overriding principle of music, Jimmy Page once said of Led Zeppelin's catalog, is synesthesia. And Will Romano here in his book says that Rush does the same thing. And what he means by that, and finally getting to it, is that they create pictures with sound. Think of, if you're talking Led Zeppelin, think No Quarter. So what this book is about is how, starting with Neil Peart joining the band with this album, through and including the culmination and beyond, but definitely perhaps at the peak with this, hence the title, which I'll get to in a minute. From here to here is Rush creating pictures with sound. Mini movies, if you will, and that's the central thesis of the book, as I said. And if you pay attention correctly to the lyrics and the music that go with it, Will couldn't be further from the truth. But let me add to Will Romano's defense, because I'm still not finished the biography. But Geddy Lee points us out himself on page 195, of his book, My Effin' Life. He says, and I quote, "As we embarked on the Fly-By-Night album with Terry at the helm, we started to appreciate how visual an art form music can be." So he himself can't be a coincidence. Romano points it out first, because this is 2022, and then Geddy points it out. This came out in November, so I don't have the dust jacket here. But even Geddy is pointing out that, yes, we're a visual band. I mean, we paint pictures with sound, and hence the title of the pun, that is Moving Pictures. And of course you get the back. Well, the original back is inside here, I guess. Yeah, there it is, right? So the iconic back cover, which is also talked about in this book. So creating pictures with sound. Do other bands do that? Maybe. I'd have to think about it and listen to a lot of bands. But no one like Rush. All right. Now, let's talk about live material. If you go see them live, the best band I've ever seen live is Rush. Again, just an opinion. There are others I love too, but too bad I didn't get to see them as much as I wanted to. Now, if we talk about, let's see, am I missing something here? Yes. Excuse me. Here we go. If we talk about them, their live material, yes, Getty says this was underproduced. This was overproduced, according to Getty in his biography. We, as fans, think these are marvels. The La Via Strangiato version on here is, there is no equal. A close would be the wonderful this. I have a playlist where I have this, but I replaced La Via with the one from here, even though this is really close. You can almost not hear the difference. And if you look at the Pink Pop Festival where Alex is playing that solo in La Via that we know and love, right? Again, at the 3-minute mark, I've never heard someone play the guitar as amazing as that moment in time recorded. So many versions, and these are my 3 favorite versions of La Via Strangiato. Again, Exit Stage Left, live in YYZ, and then the Pink Pop Festival. Again, it's back to what I said about playing with heart, with soul, and spirit. And so what makes Rush great, again, I don't think I encapsulated as much as I want to earlier in the video. These 3 guys pour their souls and heart and spirit and emotion into the music, and you can tell. It shows. You hear it. So that's what makes them great as well. And so it has to be in their live performances. And it is. And if we talk about Rush in Rio for a minute, I remember in an interview, it's R30 or R40, Neil talks about how the rain coming down in Brazil, and it was playing the drums in an open venue with the rain coming down was, and I quote, surreal. All right. They're a surreal band. All right. So does Rush have the best discography? No, they have it's close, but I will say, do they have the best album run of all time? I'm not sure, but I can tell you what, if it's not the best, it's still my favorite. So if we talk about that album, it's 12. How many bands can you name have 12 albums that are somewhere between good and masterpiece? And you can have more than one masterpiece. I'll talk about that in a minute. So, again, the debut, number 1, good. Oops. Excellent, if you ask me. That's what happens when you got things scattered everywhere, right? Number 3. Number 4. Number 5. Number 6. And Permanent Waves has eluded me. So Permanent Waves is next, number 7. Here it is. Okay. Number 8. And sorry, folks. Number 9. Number 10. And I said 12 because I'm putting these 2 in, including the album run. And this is oops. This is after. This is before Feudal King, so this would be the 5th. And then this would be after Moving Pictures. So 12 total. If you want to take those out, I get it. But you have 10 in a row studio albums. How many bands can you think of have 10, again, studio albums that are somewhere between good and masterpieces? Now, talking masterpiece-wise, which of these are masterpiece, 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 masterpiece? I'm going to say close to a masterpiece. That's, yeah. The This is also very close. All right, so you got a lot of masterpieces in a 10 album run, so that's one of the reasons, in my humble opinion, what makes this band great. And if we talk about comeback albums, yeah, Rush has a few stinkers or close or quasi stinkers, but I'm not the biggest fan of this, but I do like some songs in here, maybe about a third of it. Just to quote Alex Lifeson, says this is where they got heavy again. Could be heavier. Appreciate the attempt, though. I know a lot of people don't like this album. I love this album, except for the last song, Out of the Cradle. I think it's awful. Could have left it off. Kind of shares the same problem, Everyday Glory, with this album. Could have left that off, too. It's kind of hokey. But we're here to celebrate, not deride. And then, boy, this has kind of that start-stop feel in Far Cry. Kind of sounds like Hemispheres a little bit. And then, not a great album, but it's good or / very good. Caravan, B.U.T.B., title track. The Wreckers, Headlong Flight is my favorite. Kind of the bass kind of reminds me of Caress of Steel, specifically Bastille Day. B.U.T.B. 2, Wish Them Well is kind of hokey. And then The Beautiful Garden, which Geddy has said in a recent interview is his favorite Rush song. Not my favorite, but I do appreciate the sentiment. And it is a lovely and beautiful song, and even though that's not normally my wheelhouse. So, let's see. Is there anything else I want to say? Yes, there is. If you recall the Beyond the Lighted Stage documentary, and Gene Simmons of Kiss was talking about, it's Rush because it's Rush, or something like that. I'm not quoting him correctly, but he essentially was saying, Rush when you hear them. And so there is no band who sounds like Rush. You have a few imitators out there, Greta Van Fleet, whatever, yeah, but no one comes close to sounding Rush. They're a unique sound. And now, as you know, just because you have a unique sound doesn't mean you're automatically going to be good, but it works. In this case, excellent band. My favorite. But the uniqueness and all the things that I mentioned, the heart, the soul, the experimentation, the nonconformity, the synergy, the chemistry, all the things that I mentioned, unite as one to make this a band for the ages. Thank you so much for watching. Take care now.